My mind is a strange, bright country, or brilliant beaming spectrum. A video essay. From my youngest age, I was a peculiar and amorphous thing. I had words before I had feet that stood on their own. My sentience was an unexpected incident. My mother tells me it was the strangest set of incidents. A child in a backwards-facing car seat that understood that you were being sarcastic to her and was extremely offended by it. What an odd child. Brilliant, but certainly odd. When I was 3 years old, my mom told me, "Lolo, your sisters don't want to play with you because you are mean to them." And as the story goes, I went to school and considered this, and when I came home that day, I told my mother, "I like being mean to my sisters. It's fine if they don't want to play with me." And that was that. It was simple, really. I was born in a mind with abounding synapses, a ball of wires that were alight and sparkling with electricity, and I did not get less unusual. At 7, I became a poet. It was clear in my writings that my brain was fit for melancholy. "Stars of Sorrow, See You Tomorrow" was my first poem. I was plagued by nightmares. I was plagued by thoughts. In the years between 7 and 16, I came to realize I was not exactly of a world like this. My eyes saw interactions through cataracts. I was lost in the swamp of hormones and vitriol. Tween-age girls swarmed like locusts. Those years were eaten. Entire fields of memories were devoured, like grain in the hungry mouths of the hive. I suppress these things to balm the judgment that aches my muscles, the world I lived in, but never quite understood. I was at once prodigious and floundering. I was a land creature in the water, swimming with the hope that one day I would grow fins and belong. It was embarrassing. My brain is a strange, bright country. I am beholden to ghosts who inhabit me. Voices that argue and insult, and a psyche that feels too much in every moment, where I fear no treatise or opus, but wither under bright lights and loud sounds. The citizens of this consciousness are at war, and I am simply the battlefield. When I was 18, a therapist suggested I might have ADHD, and you should probably get tested for autism. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling. And then suddenly I had words for this. This haunting inimitability. And I wept for the beautiful child that truly, deeply believed they had been cursed. There were many like me. Thousands, millions of brains that felt some semblance of my pain, that saw the realness of its magnificence, the magnitude of its brilliance, with eyes that see the way it shines, those that shine in kind, a brilliant beaming spectrum of all glowing gold electrum, all the people who would question who will save or protect them, who are deep in love with strange things, who know the face that hides the truth, who rock and flap across the map the very living proof that my world is not misshapen, that my brain, however odd, is dense and genius-laden, that my sight was never flawed, that this strange, bright country has citizens who pride themselves on being people who are not sick, who do not hide, that I have defied great odds, carved something new of fate, that in the darkest of night, this spectrum of light will shine so bright it drowns out hate. Part 1. Autistic creativity emerges as a profound expression of depth, intricacy, and sensitivity. It's shaped by our unique cognitive style. It's often referred to as monotropism. Monotropism, or the tendency to focus intensely on a narrow range of interest. And this monotropism enables autistic individuals to explore subjects with an unparalleled level of detail and commitment. This hyperfocus translates into artistic practices. Artistic practices that are immersive, artistic practices that are transformative, that produce works that really resonate, that have lyrical depth and emotional precision. And a few studies I read suggest that this cognitive style provides autistic creators with a framework for engaging with the world in ways that challenge and expand traditional understandings of creativity. That's what I study. Autistic creators also disrupt traditional narrative structures. We embrace fragmentation, repetition, nonlinear storytelling, and we embrace them as tools of self-expression. I don't think that this disruption to the typical mode of artistic depiction is a limitation. I think it's a reflection of the autistic experience, where time, memory, and emotion often don't conform to linear patterns. Narrative inquiry allows researchers to capture these unique storytelling methods, and it offers a deeper understanding of how autistic individuals construct their identities through art. I think the interplay between sensory detail and emotional depth in artistic creativity really challenges the notion that art must conform to established standards of coherence and accessibility. I think it offers a new paradigm, one that celebrates the beauty of sensory experience, that celebrates the complexity of sensory overload and the power of focused attention. I think that by immersing ourselves in these interests and translating these experiences into art, autistic creators have redefined creativity. It's an act of deep connection and exploration. Our work is not just a reflection of our unique cognitive and sensory styles, but it's also a testament to the limitless possibilities of the human mind that have barely been explored, barely been examined, barely been tapped. So first, we're going to start with the myth of the normal brain. We have to start with the history of neurotypicality as what we call a social construct. The norm, the concept of the normal brain, is rooted in 19th century methodologies such as statistical bell curves, eugenics, and colonial ideas of standardization. This is not very helpful in our modern day, and it's not always very applicable to how we as individuals, especially neurodivergent individuals, perceive and understand the world. The invention of normal sort of feels like something that's very mundane now because it's been around for so long. It feels safe, it feels common, but normal wasn't always a concept as we now know it. It hasn't always existed. It was invented, it was ideated, it was created. It was created as a mechanism to exclude people from an in-group. And the invention of this in-group was not a passive act. I think a lot of people think the concept of normal is a neutral idea. But the idea of a normal brain emerged from a desire to control diversity and a desire to paint one group of people, specifically white males, as an ideal form, as a standard form of humanity, and in relation, all other forms were seen as lesser variations. The idea of normal as a statistical ideal can be traced back to Adolf Quintelet, who was a Belgian astronomer and a mathematician who applied the bell curve, which is a methodology used to describe margins of error. He applied it for the first time to human traits like height, weight, and intelligence. He called the statistical ideal the average man. But his average man wasn't just a thing of numbers. It wasn't just someone you counted or something you applied, it was transformed into a moral ideal. And it became so anything that strayed too far from the center of his bell curve was marked as abnormal. And then this one was very popular, considering something deviant. And then worst of all, they would consider things that fell outside of the stereotypical bell curve to be dangerous. It was never intended to measure human worth, the bell curve. But once it was applied to human traits, it sort of became the fundamentals of the concept of modern normalcy, which we sort of consider an ideal from which all of our differences are pathologized and minimized and demonized. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, there were a lot of movements that centered around this thing called eugenics. You've probably heard of it, especially in Europe and the United States. Oh, the light. I want to peel off my skin like a mango. Dig my fingers into my bloody softness. Scoop out my eyes like they are bits of beef in a goosey soup. Just to get away from the light. Oh, the light, the watching eyes that consume me, the spotlight that burns every moment I am alive, turning on a spit on a stage for your entertainment. My body is supple for the spikes. I would hold my head under frigid water to get away from the noise. Oh, the noise that takes an ice pick to my brain right through my ears, bursting through the drums, crumbling my mind to bite-sized chunks that know no language, only the crushing body of sound. My doctor tells me the world is not diseased. I am. That my brain is miswired, corroded, misfired, and with all the noise and light, god damn it, I'm tired. The prisms split sensation, kaleidoscopes extend, my broad body craves sedation, a sensory ablation, tip to tip, end to end. Metamorphosis. All I wanted was a metamorphosis. To evolve this body into beauty. To shed my skin and become the enigmatic desired. To soften into water. Conform my shape to my container, take on a new form. Girls like me are not fluid. We are wooden. We do not melt. We sublime. We burn into smoke and gas and leave solid state behind. Everyone wants to be water, the life-giving elements. But some of us are mercury or tungsten. Some of us are invisible, cruel pollutants in the eye of the beholder, noxious gases and cold metals, virulent elements that take no prisoners. Maybe I have a hydrogen complex. Always wondering why the world prefers 1s and 6s and 8s. Why we were assigned different fates. When the weight of your neurons is too much. When your rage could split an atom. You emit such radiation that you could fuel the bomb. Part 2. Neurodivergence, which was not very well researched at this point, along with any kind of disability, queerness, or other non-conforming identity. They were categorized as an inherent genetic flaw that should be eliminated from the population, and normal sort of evolved from a descriptor into a goal, something that was forced upon people. And this led to, in the early 1900s, the United States began passing sterilization laws that targeted those deemed mentally defective. And that was over 60,000 people who were forcibly sterilized by the United States government. Many of them were neurodivergent, poor, Black, Indigenous, people of color, or otherwise mentally ill or institutionalized. We live in a society that thrives on ableism and the colonial concept of normality. It measures how we as people compare in society based on our proximity to whiteness, maleness, and stereotypical high functionality. So the closer you are to functioning at a rote as a machine-like as possible, as robotic as possible, the more you act like a robot and the less you act like a human, the more ideal your work. And the more ideal you are perceived to be in our society. Here's a fun fact. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM, was developed in part through the military and colonial framework seeking to identify and eliminate deviation from American, also known as white, capitalist, and masculine norms. So the DSM-5, the very thing we use to diagnose people these days, and all of its precursors, they were invented on the assumption that anything that was not straight, white, and male was a pathology, and that we needed to actively seek to fix it and to engender people to heterosexuality and maleness and whiteness. Neurodivergent minds like ours that are prone to hyperfocus, overstimulation, sensory sensitivity, and emotional intensity, they are incompatible with factory discipline. So we were inherently labeled disordered. People literally dissect the brains of geniuses, brains that often had people thinking they were strange or off-putting or unusual. These brains are in science labs, are in museums, being observed for their masterfulness through which they created. And your brain is one such brain. Do not belittle it for not conforming. We have to break the binary between chaotic and systematic. Just because we, as an American society, like to think of things in binaries, doesn't mean things are actually binaries. Things are spectrums. Things are complex loops and swirls and twists, and we need to allow them to exist in whatever form they take, and not the form we force upon them. Just like our own brains, creativity isn't just random. It's an intuitive system. We work to an unseen order, I suppose. To make art as a neurodivergent person is fundamentally a radical act in a world that wants to silence, reshape, and demolish us. Making something that speaks truth to power, something that speaks truth to neurotypicality and oppression, that is resistance. Creativity is never, ever, ever, ever a luxury. It is a tool of survival. It is how we reclaim agency over our body, our mind, everything that the world tries to make us feel wrong for existing in. I really like the concept of hope punk. Unlike dystopia, hope punk says the world may be broken, but we are better. It's about choosing to hope, even when there's no reason. To make art, even when you're exhausted. To speak up, even when you're afraid. To rest, as an act of defiance. Reclamation is something we must do in style. I think we will take our little oddities or our little fixations and glitches and whatever else they call it, and we will make something beautiful within ourselves. We don't live in spite of our difference. We live inside it. We live with it. And I think the most important thing is that we prosper. We are the legacy of generations of neurodivergent artists who were never recognized for their art, or who were recognized for their art, but never their neurodivergence. We deserve rest, softness, boundaries. We deserve to say no. Because saying no is a radical fucking act for a divergent person. We must craft our futures. And we must craft futures that hold multiplicity. Our refusal to assimilate is sacred. Our joy is neuroqueer. I'll explain what that is later. It's resistant. It's radical. It is necessary. It's everything. I think we're often haunted by the myth of the tortured genius. Creative fields romanticize neurodivergence, but they don't support it. We're praised for what we create, but punished for needing more or needing help. We're asked to perform brilliance without having any boundaries. They expect us to bleed and don't offer any fucking bandages. They don't offer to stave any wounds, and we have always been given accessibility as an afterthought. If they think about it, and even in our creative spaces, the places we're supposed to be allowed to be our creative, beautiful, magnificent selves. You go into a poetry reading and things are too bright or too loud, or there are studios that only work with extroverts, deadlines that ignore executive dysfunction. We deserve more. We deserve infrastructure. We deserve support. We need each other more than we need this fucking industry. Neurodivergent, creative circles, mutual aid, community publishing, and all of these other places are how we build a different world. One that doesn't ask us to choose between our health and our voice. One that supports us. One that fucking ignites things. You do not have to burn to shine. You do not have to collapse to prove you are working hard enough. The world only really offers you two roles when you're an autistic person: Rain Man or burnout. You don't have to be either. I mean, you get to be whatever you want. You're not forced to choose because society told you there were only two choices. You don't fucking need to be fixed. You're not broken. Keep creating. Keep going. I give you permission to be who you are in whatever way you choose. Neurocreate. Neurodivergent. Creativity is our native language. We make words because we have to escape, rewire, or rebuild the ones we were given. We disrupt boundaries, binaries, myths, and professionalism by existing. Done isn't a place. You get to choose when you're done. I think the daily grind doesn't always work for neurodivergent people because we have bursts. We have seasons where there's plentiful harvest and seasons where it's dry. I think our brains work in tides instead of machinery. And our brains thrive on novelty, intensity, and momentum. Not always repetition for repetition's sake, for the sake of productivity and money and business and all that bullshit. Executive function varies day to day, and you're allowed to not have a good day. And you don't have to work if you don't feel up to it. And we're often told to seek consistency, but I think I prefer rhythm. A cycle that's not a rigid routine. Because when your art has seasons, where some are feast and some are famine, you have to be okay with not being the insane genius superstar that everyone wants you to be every single day of your fucking life. I know I'm not. People look at me and they're like, oh, she wrote 18 books, she's a published author, she's yada 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 yada. Yeah, but like, half the time I just lie in bed and I pray that I haven't already written my best poem, or my best book, and that there is still something in the future waiting for me. It's fucking scary, because the downside of being a genius is that nobody thinks you're human. And it's fucking terrifying. So you don't have to post daily. You don't have to write every morning. You don't have to do it like them. Your art isn't a factory. Maybe it's a forest. Maybe it's a universe, a microcosm. It expands as it wants to. You're allowed to decide what task you want to do by energy and not time. You're allowed to break your creative projects into little pieces that can be rearranged. You can reframe your project planning in any way you want. I like to think of it as discovering a new country, not designing a city. But whatever your process is, it will work. The words will come. It's not a to-do list. It's a typography of your brain. That beautiful, incredible brain that you've got going on in there. It's a mosaic. All the pieces of your little ideas and experiments and loves for Ceratopsis dohrnii and Victorian architecture, they come together to form pieces of a whole that is the art that you make. Abecedarian at a sci-fi convention. Across a grand and distant galaxy, boys lose hands like they're a driver's license, cut in half after coming home blackout drunk, despite the fact they made it back safely. Ewoks tame man, tied on a spit for a feast, furry beast of kind face craving human flesh, guest of honor, twiddle-tied golden thumbs, harboring more fear than the girls who want to ice their skin in iodine to flush away the lingering digits, jester behind a mask of war paint for a high school football game. Kill yourself, like the bathroom wall told you to. Love the boys who don't love you. Make a move like you're using the Force. Noxious breath hotter than Tatooine. Ostracize her to the depths of the Rancor pit. Press her ass against the wall, frozen like carbonite baths. Quit telling people you're a fan. They don't believe you. Run before they start getting angry. Should you have worn Princess Leia's bikini, tight like the rope she was bound with, under that old Playboy's palace, Vicodin daydreams and Death Stars. Wonder if they mean what the threats say. Xenogenic from the original trilogy. Young girls should not venture into binary star systems. Zap some sense into yourself. Try Force. Try Force Lightning. On oversharing in emails. Hi. I have been dying in a hole. Figuratively. And I would just like to say that school is very hard and I'm having a bad time. The lights in the Sci Center are far too bright. I hate the sound and texture of chalk. So I die inside a little time every time I have to write on the board, and I would honestly rather pull out my fingernails one by one than do fucking group work. I hate it. I hate it very much. It's not so much a yearning for death, and more a yearning for peace. Far away from the beaming lights and the chalkboards, where I can open my eyes in the night and not see eldritch horrors looming over me. My psychiatrist said the pressure of college would be too much for my brain to handle, that it would break me, that my recovery is the closest thing she had ever seen to a miracle. I have been betrayed by a new part of me every semester. Girls like me get lobotomized. It's not fair that I get to make it out of this morbidity alive. I want to get a PhD. I want to live a normal life. I want to step out of the shadows that whisper to me. I wish people weren't so terrified by the way they whisper. The math is not so bad, actually. I don't understand the practicality of inductive reasoning or the reason that circles and curves do not have a consistent and measured number of points of intersection, but I can make it work. But the sensory hellscape that is a STEM classroom combined with the effort of masking and the sprinkling of racism makes me want to jump off the bell tower. Figuratively. And I am straight up not having a good time. I am once again greeted by the sallow face of perplexion. Math makes me feel like a synonym of myself. Like I'm not quite the word I was looking for. I am a crystal of gypsum. I look solid but crumble easily. My brain is an orchestra with no rehearsal and no conductor. I can commit no infidelities to my truth. I burn under blurred lights like an astigmatic eye. I don't know which one is more embarrassing, the autism or the schizophrenia. Like I can't read your body language because I'm blind to it and because there's a demon standing behind you. It's kind of funny. Perhaps the rats that I hallucinate can become my friends once I am left behind by the world that mourns me as a lost cause. I am diseased as a black triangle. My therapist told me there was only a 10% chance I would finish college. A professor has called caps on me every single year. I don't know if I'm being too honest in these things or I'm missing some kind of important social cue that I don't know exists. Perhaps most people just aren't as honest about wanting to die. Perhaps most people do not want to die. Hadn't considered that. It's my opinion that if you want someone to fix something, you have to tell them the truth. And I'm not going to make my truth smaller or more palatable for neurotypical people who torment me just for being who I am. If my feelings make them uncomfortable, imagine how I feel. I wish I could just do math and not have to deal with the politics of a bunch of neurotypical people who also do not like doing math in a classroom that feels like it was handcrafted to make me suffer at the hands of a vengeful god in the core course management department. None of this is your fault, of course. It is simply a side effect of being black and autistic in a neurotypical college. But if I have to sit through another class of people talking over each other while writing with chalk under those god-forsaken fluorescent lights, I will simply stop my given task, lay on the floor, and begin to sob profusely. Followed by leaving the classroom never to return and just say, forget about it and flunk college. I am at my limit! I think I'm normal enough. I'd rather be an outcast than a liar. I can't tell my classmates about it because I see the change in how they look at me. Sometimes you just have to spit out what is eating you from the inside. And an inbox is the only place someone will listen. Anyway, have a good weekend. See you in class where we won't talk about this. Mournfully, Alora. P.S. Please do not call caps on me. They know about me. I promise. They know. Pinocchio. I think my body might be wooden. Must not be made of flesh and bone. I tell the stories that I shouldn't until my nose is fully grown. And crackling curses spout from my chip-carved mouth. hanging for strings, left all alone. Make me your new game till you go home. I just want to be a real girl. Real girl. Let my body match the seasons change. Watch my wood-block tongue unfurl. Needle prick fingertips feel real pain. I'd rather age than burn, though they end the same. I just want to be a real girl. Real girl. With no lie hiding in my name. Fill my mouth with cavities. Harsh the cinnamon, soft the sweet. Feel the crush of gravity. Feel the ground press back on my feet. Wishing on an infernal star that just might be an airplane. Don't let me live forever. All eternity is no gain. I see the way they talk about me. How they say I've got oak wood skin. They gather without me. Nobody would let me in. I know that I'm different, but that shouldn't be a sin. I know that I'm different, but that shouldn't be a sin. Maybe if I try plastic, I will finally find a friend. I just want to be a real girl. A real girl. Better than what I am. In touch with the real world. Not fading like time's own sand. If you promised me camaraderie, I would hide it like contraband. The translations to the conversations. My kind of wooden mind can't understand. Sometimes my senses behave themselves. They are a warm spoon through ice-cold desserts. A deep breath in cold winter. A cold drink in dense heat. There were moments when my skin met the air and didn't plead for salvation. When it was just right. When the sun wasn't a cruel oppressor. And my hair didn't crawl itself up the back of my neck with the intention of collapsing me into dust. I remember one such day in September, where the leaves were turning but not yet greasing the ground, and scattering in my path with crunchy minds that occupied my nervous ears and troublesome feet on the way to class. And the sky was kind of sort of gray, and the season, the microsecond, felt like a smile. A genuine one. The kind that I could understand. I've been undid. The fools and babies that God takes care of have notoriously come to a consensus on this one. When my body coils itself around itself, I can feel my thoughts in my fingers. They murmur like an unkindness of ravens. They knot themselves like ship's bows and scream for release. And all I know how to do is shake them loose to make them free, to give in to the will of my body and shake, shake until I undo the nooses, until I free my fingers from my lock grip. Sometimes there is joy in me. And I feel it in those fingers. And they try to fly away from me because joy is the flight of the Argo and it demands the sky as its plaything. I must permit them to dance, or I will shatter my pieces, will be unbecome, and I will be loose powder on your hands from a gun, and when the joy is in me, it is lit. There is nothing but the bomb. You can't calm my fingers with any medicine, no melody, no song. Liars for tongues. Girls have liars for tongues. They must have been eaten from the inside like those parasitic fish. These mistruths spout so buttery smooth that they must be of more than man. I don't understand. These are the rules? The rules are to lie? The rules are to mock and cheat and never cry? Why is every compliment a coliseum? I am a poor man with hunger, who was forced to fight a lion, who was told if he survived there would be bread. Was there ever any bread? Is all there are monsters? Are you animals with killer instincts? Does that make me pray? I just want to understand why you don't mean what you say. I want to know what to pray about when I go to pray because I'm lost, I'm tired of the hunt, to be a hare in a lion's skin, to wear one's makeup on the front. I have a porcelain face. I made it all by myself. My true skin might be a waste. I don't wear it for my health. Because I know what people do to those brave creatures to those dumb creatures who show bared teeth something true. Those innocent beasts who are the spit tide for a feast, who are held not to be released, who will learn one way or another, whether bullied by friend or mother. The trouble it makes when you uncover your real skin. They will eat you alive. I'm warning you, you will not survive. I'm warning you, it's better not to try. I'm warning you, do you want to die? I'm warning you. But there, in the shadows, are other beasts of kind, who have the same soft skin on which the others died, who are strange and fleshy, who wouldn't ever dare to show their true faces because they're aware. There are people out there like me, I swear. I've seen them on the street, with their colorful everything and unusual beat, with their radiance and dancing and freedom to shake, with their sunlight and silence and the things in their wake. I know I'm not alone here, because I found love. I found best friends and romance and yellow rubber gloves. People who love earplugs and feast on the mystical arts, who play D&D and casually pick careful masks apart. The kind of people who learn to love themselves, who learn to love others like them, and leave typical on hidden shelves, who show their soft faces to the ugly, toothsome world, who bear the scars of healing from the claws the men unfurled. I see them lurking back there, behind their painted mask. And I'm still trying to find the way to properly ask, are you one of us? Beast of soft skin? Will you be my company? Will you be my friend? The one in which I detach, drop, and abandon my tail like an armadillo lizard in a last-ditch effort to avoid a meeting with my math professor. Oh shit! Well, at least I can get away now. No more fussing with tails and tails. Math sounds like the laugh of a hyena. I am sure it is constructed of predators. My teeth are not sharp enough. I will grow a new tail! Who cares? It'll be fine! I'm done with the dance of carnivorous plants. I feel exactly as perplexed as when I am posed with a wide variety of screwdrivers. And what the fuck is a socket wrench? I am of no use. My brain is square and squeaks. I have suddenly been trapped in the second dimension. I am a 2D being traveling the long way round a triangle when I could have taken the hypotenuse highway. I have been denied life's pleasures. Taquitos, mozzarella sticks, etc. And now I eat only integers. They are plentiful, infinite as a matter of fact, but they are not tasty, and they do not satiate hunger. Doors are even vertexes, always forcing one to enter and exit an equal number of times. I laugh in the face of that concept. I will simply go out the window, and it will not get stuck. No. And I am a carpentry lesson. I am a synonym, two synonyms, in a scrapbook. I am a photo printed through Amazon. I am a triangular number and I yearn to be round. I was made to write poetry. Do not do me the disservice of shaping me as a number. I fear I will be mistaken as a mongrel or a person who enjoys candy corn. This tail is actually chafing pretty badly, so it's only a small amount of skin off my backside to drop it and run for my life. Dial-up. Sometimes my brain beeps and screeches like a computer with dial-up internet. The cluttered hard drive loads slow and squeaks into bright light, and it loads up a chat room that gets interrupted when your mom makes a phone call. It breathes heavy as it takes on the weight of the internet. It loads all the world's knowledge, and back then, that knowledge weighed 30 pounds. But now it fits in your backpack. My hundreds of tabs clamor over one another, fighting for dominance over my screen. Half the tabs are playing audio. The music feels like an intrusive thought. It won't let me sleep. It plays no matter how many tabs I close, and I wonder if my turmoil shows on the outside. If you peer into my eyes and see calamity. If my software has been corrupted. If it's busy damning me. If one day I will close these tabs and be quiet and chaos-free. If only I could sort it all out with Command and 3 and find peace inside my mind's web. Eye contact. I have never been good at eye contact. Either I make too much or not enough. I find myself peering into people's souls and I wonder if they are seeing mine. My eyes don't betray me often. They are the darkest brown, almost black. My pupils don't show when I'm in love because they blend into the background of my irises. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to have light eyes. If I could say how I feel without saying it. If my eyes could speak sentences where they only now whisper. Eye contact often hurts. It's the deepest form of being seen. My mom taught me how to do it properly. When to look up, when to look away. How many seconds you can look before it becomes staring. I often end up in staring contests because my darkness will never betray me. I don't blink first. People say I'm too intense with the way I look at things, that I see them when they don't want to be seen, that my eyes strip them naked and leave them standing in the spotlight. I pray to a God that looks a little bit like Kelly Rowland, and every night her heavenly song sends me to sleep. You see, Kelly, aka God, was my best friend for a long time. A black light lullaby. I wish you could count mental scars, that we could recount the stories with new loves and watch them fade before our eyes instead of behind them. I counted down the days until graduation by the number of times I blasted dirty laundry in my headphones. They say high school is walking on pins and needles until the finish line. I hope the skin I had back then has been replaced. I hope that some of my cuts are just scrapes and bruises that fade until they're just memories. I pray to God, aka Kelly, that when the coda comes calling and my symphony's ending, that they are not the life that flashes before my eyes. I have horrible posture. I slouch. I hunch my shoulders so hard I might roll into a ball like a roly-poly and spend my time hiding under the deck. I hunch my shoulders like I'm hiding from something. I suppose I am. I'm hiding from all the eyes that want to see me stumble and fall. I'm looking at the ground for obstacles. I'm really looking for tripwires and outstretched feet. I don't remember the first time I realized my brain worked differently. I remember feeling a little odd starting in middle school. Kids looked at me strangely, and I wore my hair in a way that my teachers, one teacher told me, you can't do that. You have to style your hair. You have to do this. You have to do that. And I was really confused. And kids would be mean to me, and they would talk about me. They would talk about how I talk too much, or I sing too much, or how I'm not that good of a singer. I remember that one specifically. And at first I just ignored it. But over the course of the years, it got worse and worse. And where it was the worst was boys I had crushes on. Because me, being the kind of well-raised, bold person I wasn't afraid of anything. I would tell boys I had crushes on them. And they would be like, ew, you're gross, or you're weird. Neurodivergent is a weird sensation. I feel a lot of alexithymia, where you can't really name your emotions or sensations in your body. And so some days I feel oblong. Some days I feel like spaghetti that's on the floor. Like really messy and hard to pick up. And I just can't put my emotions into the words people want me to put them into. Like how when somebody asks me how I'm feeling, I say, like noodle soup. And they'll be like, what does noodle soup feel like? And I'll be like, emotionally damp, kind of amorphous and very hot. Emotionally, not physically hot. And though that sort of explains what's going on in my head, because I'm a poet and I explain things in terms of poetry and not in the terms of what other people want me to say when they ask how I feel, because that's just how my brain works. Time, for me, is another sort of amorphous thing. I don't realize that time is happening. It just neglects to exist. I mean, I know it's actually passing, but it doesn't feel like it's passing. It feels like it disappears into the ether. The world is a very noisy place. It's got a lot of layers. It's overwhelming, and yet somehow, in the same breath, I cannot tolerate silence. My brain doesn't like it because it just sort of concocts scenarios and has intrusive thoughts and has all of these things that happen that make silence decidedly unpleasant. And so I try not to sit in silence. And it feels necessary for me. It feels like it's a fundamental aspect of how I get through each day. People talk about stillness. They talk about it as peaceful and ideal, but I feel like stillness is not something my body contends well with. And I would like to not have to mask in public. I would like to be weird and stare off into the void and do my little wobble back and forth when I stand up because I can't stand still and rock and shake and my hands and spin and just be free from the confines of my mask while in public. I think that would be the best feeling ever. And I don't think I'll ever get it. I don't think I'll ever get there with neurotypical people, at least for a long time. But I think that in our own communities of autistic people, we can build spaces where we get to be ourselves. And we get to be free from the confines of neurotypical space and understanding. The deaf community over time has built entire communities you can live your whole life in. And autism hasn't been around as like a diagnosed thing for as long as deafness. But I think one day there will be autistic neighborhoods. Perhaps even an autistic college. And there will be people who are culturally autistic and proud of it. Autistic with a capital A. And I think that's beautiful. And I think we deserve that. And finally, a thing to remember. When you feel lonely, when times are bad, when skies are sallow, days are sad, don't sit and wallow. Don't despair. Look for the helpers. They're always there. When it seems like you're nothing, then never enough, and the comfortable shadows turn jagged and rough. Don't embrace the empty the dark nights share. Look for the friends. I promise they're there. When the ceiling is crumbling and crushing you down, reach out a hand. Stop. Look around. I know there is salvation to be found. For friends and helpers, neighbors and heroes come to rescue the people who feel like zeros. And they'll lend you a smile, extend you a hand, and make you see that someone does understand. Staring contest. Damn it. This camera's good.